Welcome to the Brain Trust, a weekly brainstorming live stream where we always hope to educate and entertain, though we make no promises as to who or when or even about what. Tonight is Halloween, and in lieu of our regular audio excerpts from the imaginations of the mad, we've decided to do something a little bit different. So strap on whatever you have to strap on and prepare for us to design and develop our ideas right here on the screen as you watch. This is Brain Trust, the AutoCAD edition. Joining me tonight are Placeholder Films and Cassie the Ragdoll, and hopefully we'll have a few more before the night goes on, if they're not too drunk on candy. Placeholder, Cassie, welcome aboard, as always. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch over my screen share, and I'm officially crippled from everything except this. Yeah, you guys like my pumpkin? It's a good pumpkin.
It looks good.
All right. Yeah.
It is the best pumpkin I've ever seen in AutoCAD that was made in 20 minutes.
10 minutes. And now my pumpkin is dead. Now it's alive. And now it's dead again. All right. So a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about environmental solutions to global warming and whatnot. And we discussed Pykrete. And I remember somebody coming in and asking, could we make a design for a platform made of Pykrete that would float in the ocean, that would be a research facility, a solar facility, that would be all kinds of wonderful stuff. So that's what we're going to be working on tonight. I've got the AutoCAD ready. I'm going to go ahead and just start taking commands from these two wonderful people that have joined me, and we're going to design ourselves a floating platform for the ocean. So first things first, what shape are we going with?
Well, it depends on how we want to connect them.
Well, I think a pentagon is obviously an easy solution, but I honestly believe that a hexagon is a better system.
Well, hexagon is good, but if we go with octagon, we can connect more of them and have a more dense city. Because as it goes out, we wind up creating all these massive lanes where we can just fill it in with these Pykrete structures. And it can just spread for miles.
All right. So, let's see here. There we go. We're going to go with nothing particularly special size-wise. Here we go. Everything is scalable, by the way. So even though I set this at 12 inches, you can imagine it being like, I don't know, 1,200 meters if you'd like. So we've got our octagon base here. Now, is this going to be the top of the platform?
Yeah. I think it should be rounded on the bottom in order to maximize buoyancy.
Rounded, not pointed?
Well, it depends. Okay. Do we want this to be like a connecting node, or do we want this to be a main node?
Well, the connecting nodes would be on the surface. As far as what goes below the surface, that can taper down, as you see I'm doing right here. It can taper down to a point. It can actually taper out, which I think would make it more unstable. But especially if you're connecting between platforms.
How deep do we want to make these things?
Well, if we're going for 1,200 meters and I'm already at 13, you know, everything's scalable. Right now I'm extruding down to 1,300. There's 1,800 meters right there. You're 17, 16, 15, and so forth. I think in a situation like this, you're going to have a lot of submersible vehicles that are common parlance of transport.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking not too deep, but I would go with 2/3. 2/3 as deep as it is wide. Does this sound good?
So how are we going to keep this structure cold aside from just general water temperature? Like you mentioned that we were going to have copper pipes running through it. So how are we going to get that water flowing through it initially? Like, are we using pumps? Are we using, like, hoses? Like, what are we doing with that?
All right, so let's take a
Like, what kind
moment.
of radiator are we using?
Let's go ahead and set up a station here, and we'll call this the condenser station. Now, this is just a basic cube, but this could be a facility on top of the structure. If you can't see it, let me go ahead and switch over to shaded. So it's basically a structure in the center of the station that keeps it away from the ocean spray, it keeps it away from everything else. And from here, you can have all your pipes going down directly into the pipecrete like that, and then expanding out in different layers. You can make a web that goes around the outer rings and comes in as concentric octagons as it comes in. And everything would flow through this condenser station where whatever, I would go with the saline solution just to keep, because you don't want antifreeze dumping out in the ocean if you have a catastrophe. Saline's not going to hurt anything.
Right.
So if you're running a super cold saline solution below freezing through these pipes, everything's going to come back to this cube right here, this central compressor station, which will allow it to be recooled, all the heat taken out of the fluids, and then pumped back directly down to the bottom, and then back up the sides and towards the center. Or, which would actually be more practical, would be going out to the edges and then down and then back up through the center. Now, let me go ahead and switch over to wireframe so we can see the interior of the structure. So it would be something like this. So you have a main lead pipe going out. Everything around this pipe is going to be frozen. This pipe can actually branch out. If you consider this line to be a pipe, for example, then everything can branch out from there. And everything that these pipes touch is going to be supercooled. So the design of your pipe, whatever it is, will conform the designs of your walls, your interior structures, your floors, your ceilings, everything like that. You won't need pipes where you're going to have open air. And everything below the surface of this particular structure will be, you're going to have a lot of hollows and dead space in here. And that will also help keep it more buoyant, besides the fact that it's made of ice. So,
Right.
If I were to go ahead and drop all the piping in here, you guys would not be able to tell what's going on. I promise you. You just see a bunch of lines going in every direction. But let's make things a little bit simpler here, just for the sake of argument.
How would you get into the structure?
Okay, so let's say that you have, two of these structures, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that this is the skeleton.
Yeah, this is the overall shape. This is not necessarily. So if you have two of these, right, then you would connect them like that, like we were discussing earlier. Or would be more like that, and you have this central area, which is open ocean. And in here you can have surface research labs and stuff like that. You can build an artificial coral reef right in here. Something like around a central location. But as far as entry goes, you definitely have to have some sort of a port, which I would imagine would look something like this.
Hmm.
Does that look like it makes sense?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you can have ship docking bays all along this edge. And
So
then,
you're building an artificial harbor.
yes,
How
absolutely.
big do we want to make these things? That's interesting.
Well, it just honestly
Keep that
depends on,
skeleton, by the way.
what was that?
Keep a copy of that skeleton, by the way.
Oh, I will. I'm going to be saving all of this.
Well, because we can. I wish we had like. Oh, what is it? Hamachi or something where we can do like control share. I have an idea for that shape.
What's your idea for the shape?
We can use that. Okay, so do you see that box that you put there?
The compressor station?
Yes.
Okay.
Make that structure that you just had, that other skeleton, slightly smaller and longer. And you can use that for access to the surface.
Okay, hold on a second. Make the skeleton I just had, this thing?
The cylinder.
Oh, the cylinder. Let's
Yeah.
go back. Go ahead and set one of these off to the side so I can do that.
Thanks.
Because once I pull this out, it's going to be those cylinders disappear. So what you're talking about is taking this and doing what with it?
Okay, so make it longer and then make it thinner. A little bit shorter. Yeah. And then you can drop it. Can you zoom out? Drop it right next to or almost underneath. You can use that as an access point.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You
Something like
can use that as a
this.
core. Yeah, you can use that as a core so that you can repair things throughout. And you can also begin to build the reef.
So it looks more like this. So you have this
Yes.
central thing on top. Let's go ahead and move this guy off center a little bit. There we go. So we've got a compressor station. We've got a direct submersible dive all the way to the bottom. If we switch over to wireframe, you guys can see the
You
interior
can
of the
also use
structure.
it for access to the surface with like elevators lining it.
Oh, oh, that's not even a
Massive
bad idea. And
industrial
you
lifts just going from the central all like the center all the way up to the surface.
and a natural hydraulic lift for anything that you want to get from point A down here to point B up here.
Yep.
Excellent. I like that. That was not. See, this is why I thought it would be better to brainstorm this idea. All right. So we've got a harbor on either side. We've got a central port. We've got the compressor station. Let's go ahead and unify the whole structure. All right. Now it's one structure. Excellent. Switch back over to shaded. And we're good. Now, on top of this structure, you're obviously going to have a certain amount of space that um, you can't use because of ocean spray.
Mm-hmm. Well, why? We can put buildings there.
So I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be something like right about there. So the edge of the harbor. Really? You're gonna mess
Maybe
with?
pull it back a little bit.
All right, let's actually do this a little bit different. I remember that I'm doing the right command here, apparently. So yeah, let's pull it back. And you can have housing along this outer ring here, because people don't generally mind too much sitting on the ocean front.
Can you
But as
drop the central octagon a little bit?
you mean drop it?
Like that whole, can you alter the structure such that, yeah, down a little bit. Drop it.
Let's go with a. Something like this.
Yeah. That way you have a little bit of protection from the elements as well for the research going on the surface.
Do you think it might be better to raise it up?
No, because you get more ocean spray.
Hmm.
You need the air as clear as possible because you're also going to need to farm on these things.
To some degree, yes, but you can do that inside structures. So let's.
Well, sure, but you're gonna people live here. They're gonna want a lawn, and there are things to do on the surface.
call this a food tower and move it over here.
Okay. So are we gonna do all farming in one building, or are we gonna do different kinds of farming?
Well, I think ranching is definitely a necessity. You have to have some degree of meat. I know the vegans will hate me for that, but I hate the vegans, so I don't really care.
Yeah, because you have people who have low iron and can't absorb iron correctly.
Yeah,
So
and
meat actually has a ton.
yeah, and it's really good for you, and it's tasty, and I like killing the animals that make it.
Yeah, see, I can't say that far. It's tasty. It's meat.
Well, I don't actually enjoy killing the animals that make it, but it shuts the vegans up pretty quickly when you do. Also why I post a lot of pictures of Putin. It just pisses people off, and I love that. There we go.
Okay, so what kind of research do you want to do on the surface versus subsurface?
Well, I think is if you're making several of these platforms, what kind of research is almost irrelevant. Certainly, you're going to have some specially designed platforms for some special types of research. But I think generally speaking, if we're talking about this being, say, like a one city block building right here, then we can probably fit another 10 on here pretty comfortably and still have plenty of room for apartments and houses around the outer edge.
Mhm.
And in those buildings, you can pretty much set up any kind of labs you want. The real value in having this is the research in the deep ocean part. Like we were talking about setting up coral reefs in between them, or setting them up around them, or underneath them, or in this access port, which I honestly think of as a hydraulic elevator being probably the most useful use for it. But if we're talking about specified research, so like let's say you wanted to do research on ocean marine mammals like whales and
Right.
God forbid dolphins, then you might want to expand this port a lot more, and you would lose a lot of surface space. It might be worth it because let's go ahead and switch to wireframe, and I'm going to show you guys something really interesting. So let's go ahead and drop this 6 meters down. And how do I want to do this? Let's say this is a research lab under the surface. you now have open access right here. You can seal off doors on this plane. If you can see this rectangle that I'm showing you right here.
Yes.
You can put watertight doors on that, or some sort of where you have the water coming up underneath and then opening into an area where
How
the
much
pressure.
Pykrete do you want? How thick do we want this Pykrete?
That would come down to structural analysis. I would really need a structural engineer in here to be able to tell you what it needed to be. But I'm going to guess, just out of personal experience, that it's going to need to be at no less than 8 inches. And you wouldn't really need more than 12. But it would also depend on what the structure is being used for. For example, if you have just storage down here in the lower parts, then I would say 8 inches would be just fine. But if you're doing some sort of pressure chambers or something like that, you might have to kick it up a bit. It might have to be up to 16 inches thick, depending. Pycrete's pretty tough stuff, but pressure is pretty amazing stuff.
Right.
And so, especially when you have rapid changes of temperature, which you're going to probably have to be ready to cope with in a pycrete situation. But from a practical standpoint, if you have this tube of water right here, and you have all these, elevators and research labs coming out of it, let's see if I can actually see it from this side. Yeah, that's not working. Where did I put it? This is one of the few times I can't remember where I stuck it. There it is.
Giggity.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're coming at it from the bottom. And you're coming up through
Nice.
this is all underwater. You're coming up through here. This is an access port. The water is obviously going to flow into here. And then you would have on the ceiling of this access port, you would have an opening. And the pressure inside of the room that opening opens up into would have to be significant enough to keep the water from flooding over the opening and flooding out the facility. So we're talking about Loctite doors, we're talking about airtight seals, we're talking about pressure doors and stuff like that.
Well, and we can do, like, the military has been doing submarine entrances for, like, the entire time submarines have been a thing. Like, you can do underwater entrances easily.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can even have a submarine base within this structure where they just basically go in for repairs, maintenance, that kind of thing. And they don't actually have to go all the way to the surface. They don't have to go to a dry dock. They can simply go into an artificial dry dock within the interior structure. That being said, I think something else that might be worth considering would be something like docks.
Here's, okay. In the living areas, do we want grass?
You can have it. You're sitting, whatever you do. So you have this structure right here. It's entirely made of ice. Everything that's on the surface is made of ice. What you would need to do above that is put sand down. Then you would put a gravel, and then you can actually lay in some dirt and probably lay some sod. There are a lot of grasses that are pretty good with ocean spray, and you'll find them on golf courses everywhere. They're kind of expensive, but you're talking about building land in the ocean.
Yeah.
At this point, you got billionaires to invest, probably. I'm going to guess. So
Well, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking about like specialized. We're just building the general structure right now. I'm thinking more specialized like versions of this.
So, and more specialized. Let's go with the new structure here real quick. Let's say that we're going with just a facility for just a facility for let's see, solar. We were talking about solar, right?
Yeah. Because if we do that, we can just use superconductive magnets and transmit energy through our connections to each other in proximity to these solar nodes. What do you think?
Proximity to the solar nodes. So if you have like, let's say, let me make a solar panel here, right, real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead and switch that color up a little bit. We'll go with green. That's fun. Ah, why did you go green? It's because it's on the same layer. My
That's the
bad.
secret dolphin. He's
What was
always
that?
angry.
What was that?
That's his secret dolphin. He's always angry.
Yeah, that's how I get through anger management.
I shouldn't laugh. That's not funny.
Yeah, because you know it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finished, by the way. My anger has been successfully managed.
Excellent. How long
Awesome.
until you take it again?
Probably a week or so, I'm guessing. Something like that.
It'll be all right. They'll never brainwash you.
No. My last anger management course ended in a screaming match with my therapist. It was great. I felt like we hashed a lot of things out. Apparently, I'm not allowed back, but hey, it's all good. You guys only knew how true I was being right now.
That's all right, dude. It happens. Like, thankfully I've kept it under control long enough that I've never had to go to anger management. But oh my god, there have been times.
Yeah.
That you didn't know how. It's like how am I not killing everyone right now?
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm there like every day.
Yeah.
I swear. If I had to be evaluated by somebody that got their master's degree and didn't end up in social services, I'd probably be I'd be in a lot more trouble. I'll just put it that way.
Uh,
All right, so you got like solar panels right here, right? So let's. Oh, yay! Thanks. Circled wants to be a jerk. Now we've got
That's
a
why I pinned the other one.
We've got a circle jerk.
Well, I mean, we can use this as a generate storage and power generation facility,
Yeah, I would
or we
say
can use it as a subsurface farm.
I like that. I like that subsurface farm with storage capacity below it. So imagine that these guys right here span the whole top of this, and you want your water line to be about a third of the way down. You really want this bad boy up above the water. You don't want the salt spray to do too much damage to your panels.
Right, but you also don't want to be so high up that you're unstable. So how big are we going to make this thing? Because it's going to have to be huge.
Let's take a look at something else here. Now that you mentioned that, this is why we're great brainstormers. Wonderful. Oh, yay. No, I can't do that. I've already screwed it up. Yay. So I'm thinking.
That's all right, dude. We'll just leave a note.
We'll leave a note for the engineers. All right, so let's say if you're going to have it that high up for solar facilities, I would say don't taper the angle at all. I would say make it straight down, and that's going to keep it as stable as it can be. Also, keeping in mind that your solar facility probably be more stabilized by other facilities in the area.
Right, and then we can use those connectors to transmit energy to the other Pykrete structures, so we don't have to power every single one of them individually.
Yeah, you just have that one central guy that's doing all the...
That's a node. That's a central structure on the left. That's a node on the right.
All right, there we go. Now it's the right size. Should probably use numbers more often. They're useful.
Generally, yeah.
They're really useful. That's why algebra was invented.
It wasn't invented, it was discovered.
No, it was
Same
invented.
thing.
All maths are invented.
This is true.
Everything is invented.
You guys are going to hell for that.
Probably.
Just saying. Just saying.
Well, you know what? I'm okay with that.
At least we'll be together.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see if that actually worked. Oh, yes, it did. Look at that. Let's turn this bad boy that direction. And now, we can do this. Hey! And everybody's happy.
Hmm.
Yes, I know there are double structures here. All right, so yeah, let's use our imagination, because otherwise this is going to take a while.
Double structures are gross, Dolphin.
What? They're not gross. You know, it takes two to tango. I'm just saying.
This is true.
You got one right on top of the other. They're having a good old time. All right, so you've got this node like this. Yeah, I should have probably drawn a center line here. So imagine that this entire thing is covered in these wonderful solar panels that I've made up off the top of my head out of green, because we all love green. This would be a central node, and then you'd have other structures like this. They're just sitting around. Really? Go ahead and rotate that so it makes more sense.
I don't think we would need harbor structures on any power node.
Absolutely not. That's why I didn't put them in there. And that's also why I turned this bad boy, in case you didn't notice.
No, I did.
Okay, good. I was hoping that's why you mentioned that.
Yeah, I was just commenting on that. But yeah, no, I think this is going to be very interesting. We can use this for solar farming, and we can use the central structure of that for storage of any local farming that we happen to do. Like we can farm local wildlife if we need to. Like that's how we've survived forever. We just make sure that we keep a delicate balance. And we begin to rebuild the local wildlife. Or we figure out a way to 100% efficiently recycle things so that any farm animals that we bring with us do not pollute the local environment.
All right, so you've got your power source here in the center. This is your solar facility. You can have...
I'll be right back.
Yeah, fair enough. Up here, you've got an excellent research facility. Over here, you can have housing and structure. Over here, you can have administration. And of course, this is where your gift shop is. But basically, each structure attached to the central node can be used for whatever purpose you would need it for. And just for grins and giggles, let's go ahead and make sure this is rotated properly. There we go. A lot better. And one more. I miss doing this. This is fun stuff. Always checking other people's all day. And you can reconnect these platforms. Actually have a whole system of them. Now, something I'd like to point out here is if this is floating out in the ocean. So you've got all around here is water. You've got these two power nodes that are powering and supporting all of these other platforms. This is the best part, in my personal opinion. Let's imagine that this is very similar to the transatlantic cable. It just angles out here and can reconnect back to the mainland eventually. Oh, that should be bigger. No one can read it. Okay, there's your land. See? It says land. Boom. And out here in the ocean. So any extra power that these guys are generating that isn't needed to supply this area can actually come back here. And because of that, it allows you to have other facilities such as just for grins and giggles. something like this. How's the chat doing, by the way? Is anybody in there telling me that I'm screwing up the world yet?
No.
Excellent. Excellent. I haven't seen the flaws in my plan yet. And boom. So imagine that you have like just a straight power facility right here, and you wouldn't need much support for it. It's just you're just talking about solar facility in the ocean. Floating pipecrete doesn't even need to be that deep, just high enough to get it out of the ocean spray. And these I think would be the easiest ones to build because you don't need a lot of room or storage below, so there's not a lot of architectural input. Wow, we've been running through this pretty quickly. You realize we're already at midnight. We really, who was your friend that was asking me to do this, by the way? Cassie?
Minty.
Minty. We should definitely get Minty to take a look at this kind of concept. I know this is a very basic, not very intricate concept. I could probably put something together more if I had about 12 hours or so and a couple other programs to work with. But something like this on a regular on a grand scale, just looking at it from the overall. So you've got San Francisco right here and a wire just coming out into the Pacific. There are a lot of Pacific Ocean currents out there that could be cooled down, redirected, and managed pretty well through this process. The ice from the Pipecrete would keep them cool where they need to be cool and create land and generate space. So for Minty, I actually like Minty. I've talked to her quite a few times. For Minty, this is all for you. All right, this is your place. And if you don't like it, well, you should have been in the chat or something.
Yes, but she's very pregnant, so.
Oh, speaking of which, it's my wonderful joy to announce to everybody that follows the Brain Trust that I have another child on the way. We found out last week. My wife and I are pregnant. We're going to have another kid. And if it's another boy,
Yay.
I'm just going to go ahead and shoot myself.
Don't worry. If you have another boy, you can borrow my daughter.
Yeah, well, we'll just trade. We got 3 boys, 4th boy on the way, probably. So yeah, this is. I think we've carried ourselves all the way through this stream. This is probably the fastest I've ever done a stream. It seems like it just flew by, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should continue.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna do some work on it, and we're gonna start doing we're gonna have to start doing an AutoCAD session at least once a month to develop some of the other ideas. So feel free to, when we're talking about the brainstorms and stuff like that, to say stuff that requires some structural design. So this has been the most fun I've ever had on Brain Trust. God, I'm in my element. Wow. Bragging about all the little kids that make me insane. It's wonderful.
You mentioned something very interesting earlier about changing the currents. So my concern with that would be we can change the currents in such a way that it would maximize the efficiency of all of our inland dams in addition to generating energy for these things.
Absolutely.
However, that kind of change might potentially destroy an entire ecosystem or 2 or 10.
That's also a possibility. I think that as long as it's well planned out and you have some really great minds on where to put these things and you know, where we're maximizing potential and doing the least amount of damage. I'm pretty sure that we could.
How would we muffle it? Because these things are going to make a lot of noise.
What do you mean? I've never been to a solar facility. Are they noisy?
No, but just a general hum and operational noises are going to have an effect on the local environment as well.
Yeah, you're definitely going to need to have some sort of research. Now, what I've thrown down here, by the way, is a mock-up of an ocean ocean current turbine. This is something that you could actually have extending below the structure in deep enough water where the currents are very strong. And there are some really, really interesting designs. I wish I had the time to show you guys what they look like in 3D.
Leave a note.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Why don't I do that right now? Design turbine. Go ahead and stick that over here. Design turbine. Okay, and while I'm at it, let me go ahead and throw this down here too. Typing infrastructure. For those of you criticizing my spelling, I am an engineer, not an English teacher. But yeah, the turbine designs that they have, I know a lot of people are concerned about putting turbines in the ocean, what it can do to the fish, what it can do to the marine wildlife, but the turbine designs that they've come up with are incredible. If you've ever seen an old school push lawnmower, the kind that, like, as the wheels turn and the blades spin and all that.
Let's not talk about those, please.
My neighbor used to have one.
Flashback childhood memories of hell.
What, your dad didn't just have a belt? What the hell? I'm sorry. Yeah, anyway, so mine did. Anyway, so these underwater turbines, they look very similar to that, only they don't have blades slicing each, across each other. It's more like just one blade that just rotates by itself. And they found that fish and marine wildlife and all kinds of stuff can run into it, bump into it. It's not going to hurt them at all. They just kind of bounce off it. They're like, oh, they might give it a little boost. They might slow it down depending on how they hit it. But it just goes right back into moving, right back into rotating. And it actually works pretty well for some of the smaller fish who will sit in the center along the long axis of the turbine and just chill. And
yeah.
They've got this protection of this giant spinning thing above them that other fish keep getting knocked out of the way when they try to go and eat the smaller fish. It's pretty interesting. I've seen a handful of designs.
You know what? They can study and develop local wildlife doing that. So that might have unintended consequences as well because we're introducing a new element.
See, here's something I was thinking about was fish hatcheries. Mm-hmm. And this is going to take me just a moment, but let's see if we can. Let's see if we can 3D rotate this guy real quick. And then, oh, that was bad.
What'd you do?
Oh, I went past. I've got this thing set so that it clicks on certain angles, and I went just past the angle.
Nice.
So it was like a 97-degree angle. It was interesting. So if you think of this like a honeycomb type structure, and this is how a lot of the nursing areas for fish hatcheries go. You can have this actually dropping down below or on the sides. Now this would be actually a really blown up version. These things would not be nearly as big as they are in comparison to these platforms. You know, they might be 8 inches, 10 inches, 12, and depending on what kind of fish you're trying to help increase the population of. But it basically is a nice little tunnel for the fish to go back there. They can lay rocks along the edge, and then they can pour a bunch of eggs in the back, and the other dad fish can come in and do his thing. And that's how a lot of deep ocean fish hatcheries go. There's also an interesting concept for icosahedral fish hatcheries, which are basically just giant icosahedron nets that kind of float on top of the ocean, but not really. And they allow the fish to grow once they're a certain size. They take the fry and they put them in there, and then they grow into full-size fish. And that's how they do fish farming in the deep ocean. But the same concept can be applied to just simply trying to up the population of a lot of different fish. Because
Right.
I love
But my concern is what that will do to a local environment where that might alter it negatively.
but by increasing the population of fish.
Closed structure with fish that we bring with us.
Oh no, these would be deep ocean
Or
fish.
Offer protection to local species.
It would be protection of local species. Specifically, you don't want to breed fish from a different area. You really don't. Invasive species can be a problem. I mean, look at kudzu in the south. You know, you really don't want to do that in certain parts of the ocean. Like you don't want to start introducing a bunch of eels, for example, to a coral area. Yeah. I mean, they have enough as it is. They don't need protection. They're pretty tough. But if you have a honeycomb structure like this is would be a zoom in of the fish hatchery. Each one of these would be a nesting brood. And this thing right here, let's go ahead and scale it down. Can sit. Yeah, I figured that was going to happen. These don't have to be made of pykrete. They can be made of recycled plastic. They can be made of all kinds of things. But they can actually line the entire exterior of this structure so that every outside external inch is a place that fish can go ahead and be safe to breed, thereby giving them the potential to increase the population of everything from anchovies to albacore, you know, pretty significantly. Because once they leave as fry, they're pretty much done. You're done. You don't really need to do much else from them because the fry themselves add a valuable element to the food chain. So they don't necessarily have to grow into full-size fish to help the environment.
You know what we can do with them?
Yeah, we can put them
hydroponics farming
right here.
Hydroponics farming with that.
Well, you gonna hydroponically grow fish? How does that work?
No, hydroponically grow plants.
Oh, absolutely.
We can run that water into the hydroponic system because it's nice and rich with things like ammonia, something that plants clean out of the environment. So that's essentially food for them. So they're happy.
You have to remove the salt, though.
Well, we can filter it.
We can desalinate it. The cost of desalination has definitely gone down.
Yeah. And if we really wanted to or needed to, we can always use salt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Harvesting salt. That's like I'm a capitalist, so I'm already thinking about the profit motive here.
Oh hell
Uh,
yeah!
and salt is a valuable resource. You can definitely produce more salt. And these aren't just
You
research.
can also use it to produce saline.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Ocean-bound sailing. Um, for
We have so much of it, more than we can sell.
those of you who saw the movie Man of Steel, the point behind Lex Luthor's brilliant plan, which if you ever watch a Superman movie, you don't watch to see what Superman's going to do because he always does the same thing, like use his ridiculous amount of power to win.
Yep.
I watch it to find out how the villain thinks he's going to get away with it. Because how do you beat Superman? That's the real interesting question to me. Along that same lines, in that movie, Lex Luthor, his whole plan was to create land in the ocean, and that in and of itself would be one of the most valuable pieces of real estate ever. So the profit motive definitely exists with something like this. You don't have to have nothing but research facilities. You can have the, let's see, right here, color this one. What's a good tourist color? We'll go with purple. That looks purple, doesn't it? No, that doesn't look purple at all. There we go. There's purple. You got the purple little tourist out here. They can have their docking space right here. Giant casino. It's wonderful. And and by the way, since you're in the ocean and far away from any national laws, all drugs totally legal within this space. So there's your
All
other
over
profit.
international waters.
Yeah, there's your other profit motive right there. Get the hippies out there smoking pot. You're dead set. You're making money. If you can get hippies smoking pot, you win.
Dude, we could run the economy on weed if we wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. But then use all that money to fund the research and the benefits of the system altogether. I don't know if you were here for this, but this over here, that's San Francisco. You like the shape?
So we're talking bigger than San Francisco. Okay.
Well, I was just giving you an example. So, like, you have a land connection over here. This little word right here is land. Really? Is it that bad? There we go. Okay, so this is the land connection. This would be like just a cable line dropped along the ocean floor. You have a central, just straight up power plant generating power back to the mainland without using up any existing land. And that's where you also have your power turbines and so forth and so on. And then you have your actual place where people go. And of course, some of the people that would live here, because you'd have to have a permanent living staff, some of the people that would live here would travel back and forth between this set of platforms and the main one to make sure that this one's upkept and whatnot. The best thing about the Pykrete structure, though, in my personal opinion, is let's say you have a ship come in and crash right into here. Does significant damage. It breaks through walls. You've got flooding in a bunch of different areas and whatnot. The great thing about the Pykrete is that with the internal piping that's got fluid running through it, keeping it below freezing temperatures, you can you can actually let it cool down or warm up a little bit. You stop running that sub-freezing fluid through it, let it thaw out just a slight bit, and then reseal all those breaks and cracks just simply by refreezing it. So
the easiest maintenance for collisions.
Absolutely. No damage would be catastrophic. And considering it's bulletproof, I'm not really sure how much damage a ship crashing into it would actually do. I think it would actually sink the ship more quickly than it would sink the platform.
Oh, yeah.
Or it would definitely do more damage to the ship. But I'm going to go ahead and point out that we're already into 12:20. This has been one of the fastest moving brain trusts I've ever been a part of. We're going to try and do this more often on a more regular basis, where we whip out the AutoCAD and draw some stuff. But it is Halloween. I don't expect a lot of people to be here tonight. So thank you all for coming, the 3 of you who did. Thank you all for watching, those 7 people. And we'll catch you on another week. This has been the Brain Trust. Hopefully I'm not screen sharing anymore. There we go. How was it, guys? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Was it a good presentation visually? Is it something we should do more often?
I think it would be a good idea. I liked the fact that we were able to figure out like which specific functions we would like these Pykrete structures to serve, because we can't just build a structure without an intent.
No, you're right. I want you guys to take what we've done here tonight and think about it, because I really want to come back to this idea. I'm going to save this file. And anybody in the audience that watches this, that sees this, that has ideas, contact us, leave some comments below. Let us know. We'll be back month after month, and we're going to just keep expanding on this idea until we get some really good designs down.
Eventually, we'll start designing each floor, and we'll figure out how tall we need each floor to be, how narrow each hallway can be in order to maximize the amount of usable space versus comfort. So that's going to also be very interesting once we get down to the actual nitty-gritty of it. So
yeah, absolutely. And I can create as many files on this as there need to be. I can extrapolate into different layouts. We can look at things on a floor by floor, room by room, wall by wall basis if we need to. And so I think, yeah, we're going to have to revisit this month after month and expand on our Pykrete idea. If we get something really good, we might have to apply for one of those giant government loans that everybody's giving out. I like free money. Anyway, it's been a great night. Thank you all for joining us on the Brain Trust. If you have any questions, ask the guy at the desk. Peace.